Welcome to the Erin Cruz Show. We have a special guest tonight on with us. She is a patriot. She's a dynamo. I know I say that about so many lady patriots, but it's just true. And I know I say that a lot, but it is. It really is. We have KrisAnne. She's an expert and constitutional analyst. She's been all over the TV and news recently. She's teaching. She's going to tell us about her programs that she's working on, education, empowerment, enrichment. Thank you for coming on the Erin Cruz Show. I mean, we're so honored to have you on.
I am excited to be here. I've seen you on social media and we've talked before, and it's just awesome to be, like right here.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's been hit and miss, right? We're both busy women and politics is just rolling right now, and Americans are just getting back on track. And with the struggles of today, especially women, it seems like,
Yeah.
Democrats seem to be giving women a bad name in terms of what they're doing. It just blows my mind. Well, you were telling me in the pre-interview a little bit about you were on Fox and Friends. I mean, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. You were on Fox and Friends. Why were you on Fox and Friends?
They had me on as a constitutional analyst to talk about the Kavanaugh nomination. And also to talk about that was back when you had there was that whole mystery about the letter coming from somebody in staff, and we're here in the underground trying to take care of things and control Trump, and that whole New York Times debacle thing.
Oh my gosh, this pie in the sky letter, writing to them, and this letter that's there, and everything's who's at the core.
Yeah.
Feinstein.
Yeah,
but you went on Fox and Friends. That's pretty awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. I've also been on Fox's America News headquarters from DC. I did that twice.
That's wonderful.
In the last 2 weeks too. And that was all about Kavanaugh as well. So as a constitutional attorney, apparently people want to know about the Constitution when we're having a justice, which is ironic because the Senate's not concerned about the Constitution when we're actually nominating a justice, but the people do. So at least the people have their right perspective.
I'm trying to hold my head together because I don't want to have my mind blown. I mean, seriously, because it's so true, and it on a fundamental level, it's scary actually, because this is the basics. I mean, this is absolutely the fundamental basics. I mean, if you look at the foundation of our republic and our country, I mean, at the core of everything of who we are, it's the Constitution, and it's simple. I mean, when you look at it compared to everything else that's been done since then.
Oh, yeah. I always tell people that the Constitution is a really very simple document. It's politics that make it complicated. And that's part of what I do. I'm able to take these issues, both law and Constitution, and bring them to the people in a way that it's really, really easy to digest. Although I'm a lawyer, I'm trained in the law, I don't speak legalese, and I don't want to be speaking to people like a law professor, so I'm not trying to talk over everybody's head to show that I'm superior. I believe, as the founders believed, that the Constitution had to be simple so that the people could understand how their government was supposed to work, the limitations of their government, and the power that the people hold over their government. And so much has been stolen from us, Erin, in the last 150 years that the American people have become trained to be fundamentally ignorant, not only ignorant in the Constitution, but ignorant in such a way that we're taught that the Constitution's too complicated, that you can't possibly understand that. You got to leave that to the politicians and the law professors and the Supreme Court justices, who, by the way, Erin, none of them are actually really concerned about the Constitution at all.
They aren't, and I don't even know that they're concerned about the country, frankly.
No, I don't think so. They're concerned about their own pockets.
Because, in fact, when we look at even just some of the more basic things that have gone on of recent, I mean, they're just, if you care about the country and you want to do what's right, it's not right versus left, it's right versus wrong. The Constitution is very basic. I'll look at my very tough race against Dianne Feinstein, and it blew my mind when people came to me
God
and
bless
they'd
you
say,
for that, by the way.
oh, of course, we're not stopping. 2022 against Kamala Harris. We're not going to stop. We're building, yes. But here's the deal. people will come to me, and I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to speak legalese. I have a lot of knowledge and wealth of information, and I'm so grateful to have good and strong advisors. Here's the deal. When people would ask me about, for example, the Second Amendment, and I would say, as it's written in the United States Constitution, it's very, very simple. But, are you going to let all of those buts be an excuse for some federal bureaucrat to be able to take away all of your rights as a person? And in fact, any of those laws that are written around guns are to protect us from the unlawful individuals who are out there, criminals, not the law-abiding citizen. And like you said, so many people have just set aside the United States Constitution and let go of everything that we hold dear as a republic, and let their freedom go. Let their freedom go, and let the politicians just run with it, and run, and run.
Erin, Samuel Adams has a very powerful quote, and it's actually a quote that drives my entire ministry to educate.
I love that, ministry to educate.
He said, "No people will tamely surrender their liberties nor be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved." He said, "But on the contrary, when the people become universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink underneath their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders." And that's what's happening in America. America is sinking under the weight of overgrown government, out of control politics, groups that are bullying people out of their rights. And it all has come not because of ISIS, not because any invasion from any kind of enemy, but from the enemy of ignorance that has simply overcome America as to what their fundamental rights are. So many Americans, Erin, actually believe that their rights come from the Constitution.
And from government. They come from God.
And from government, from laws. I mean, Chris Cuomo and I had this big Twitter argument because he was trying.
I love it. You're gonna lose with KrisAnne Hall. I'm sorry.
No, he did. He lost. Actually, at the end of the Twitter argument, he said, "Well, I see your point. I think maybe I need to think about things." He was trying to assert. I thought it was wonderful. He was trying to assert that rights come from laws. And I simply had to explain to him, it's the opposite. Rights precede laws. Laws are created to secure rights. Right. And if rights come from laws, that means laws can take them away, which means you are not free. You are actually enslaved to whomever is writing the laws, because those lawmakers then decide the value and worth of your life, the value and worth of your property, and those things are now all in their hands, under their control, and you are enslaved to the value they put on you.
Absolutely. And let's go down right now, because that is such a strong point right there. You have an education platform.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
we want to talk about that, because what you said right there is so true to the core of who we are, and how far we've come off base, and understanding that government isn't Big Daddy, nor shall it ever be. It won't be. It shouldn't be. It won't be. And our rights do come from God, or the powers that be. They're up there. They're not here by man. But what we want to do is we want to talk about your educational platform. Can you share with us the work that you're doing? Because it's pretty dynamic. It really is wonderful.
Well, for the last 7 years, my family and I have been traveling all over the United States. We've averaged for the last 6 years about 265 trainings in over 22 states every single year. That's what we've averaged every single year. Now, we have cut back a little bit on that, on the frequency of those trainings in 2018, because we developed an online platform called LibertyFirstUniversity.com. And that's LibertyFirstUniversity.com. And it's online classes. It's everything that I teach when I'm on the road, plus more, so that people can use this online platform to learn at their own pace. One of the classes that we have is a distinction between rights and benefits. We talk about the origin of liberty. We talk about the history of the Constitution that goes back 700 years, about the 5 documents that were written over those 700 years that actually became our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, and our Bill of Rights. Most Americans actually believe that our Constitution was an invention of the drafters and something that they just thought up, but they don't realize that there were 5 written documents that our founders used. And it's because of those 5 written documents that we know that the Constitution actually means what it says.
This is so hard for me to hear because it's difficult, because how have we gotten that far?
Well, if you think about it from a perspective of how long it took us to get here, I mean, I think it seems like it happened quickly because we're just now becoming more and more aware of what's going on. There's more people aware of just how far we've come against the Constitution. But we actually started moving away from the Constitution in 1830. So it's
I'm glad you touched on that. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right, but it just seems to me in the last 10 years, we've really, it's like computers,
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there's been an energizing in terms of the growth that's happened away from teaching the basics in our schools. And I know that's been, it's generational in terms of the
Right.
way it goes back, but really the last 10 years, is what I've seen, where it's just gone completely out of control. And perhaps it's the amount of information out there, the disinformation, the misinformation, what people are taking in, or the media. I'm not sure, but it really does seem that this newer generation here that's coming in through the schools, and I want to talk about this for a minute, is the schools. In elementary school right now, we have youth that are really interested, and their families are really starting to participate, is what I'm saying. But as you go towards the middle schools right now, and in the high schools, you have a population who just seem to be completely out of touch with what reality is in terms of the education system and in terms of the knowledge that they're being provided to go out into the everyday world. And at the base of all of this is information about the structure of our country and how everything operates. You could just look at people walking up to these kids on the streets doing an interview. They don't even know who's in specific offices. It's really scary to me. We have to get back to those fundamental value systems, and especially in our schools. And I know parents are getting more involved at the younger ages right now because they see the crisis that's out there in the country. And that's good news. But I would like to know, I've put now up here the libertyfirstuniversity.com so people can see your website. How do we get your program into people's hands? Because I think that schools or clubs, or maybe not schools, but maybe clubs or other groups could really, really benefit from just an understanding at a basic level about the structures of government and the information you provide. I mean, is there a way that you could reach out to these younger groups and get to them? Because that's where they're so vulnerable.
Well, we just got home, Erin, from an entire week in Oklahoma, where I taught in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And in those 4 days that I was there, I taught over 1,000 students. I think 300-400 of them were high school, middle school students, and the other 600 were college students. So I taught at Oklahoma Wesleyan University. I taught at Oklahoma Christian University. The high school that I taught at was Christian Heritage Academy in Oklahoma City. And they brought me in to teach their entire high school a 5-hour seminar on the Constitution. So we're doing this, and we've been doing this for the last 6 years. Well, we've been teaching for 8 years, but really, really teaching a lot for the last 6 years. And Liberty First University is something that we do offer to the schools. We have a subscription program for parents who want to bring it into their homes. We have a subscription program for groups. We actually have a statewide movement happening in South Dakota where we're getting one group in every county that's going to start teaching the curriculum from Liberty First University. And we have a special program for them because they have 53 counties and the organizer already has 30 that are signing up. And so we're seeing huge.
Do you hear this, California? Do you hear this, Christian school organizations, private schools, clubs? Hello. We have 58 counties here in California, and all 58 counties need your help. It's not about right and left, liberal, progressive, conservative, Republican, Democrat, anything. It's about the fundamental value systems and the fundamental information that was provided in our founding documents. I'm just so enlightened today to hear of your progress. I know we touched base some time ago, and we had interacted, and I had seen you out there, and I was so proud of you. But I'm just, to hear you here today live with me, it's wonderful, because I know we're at a crisis point, and I feel like we're at a fork in the road as a country. And
well, can I give you some encouragement?
Yes, give us some encouragement. We see it every day, but.
Yeah, but I want to share with you what we're seeing. And a lot of times you hear people talk about the millennial snowflakes, the millennial this, the millennial that. They're really the minority out there. There is a liberty millennial generation that is coming out, and they're angry at how their generation is being represented, and they are becoming the majority. We have a radio show that broadcasts Monday through Thursday, and on Saturdays I have books and DVDs, and I'm telling you, I am contacted more and more by young people and college students who are like, look, we are not those millennials. We are not those people. We are people who love liberty. We are people who want to know about our Constitution, who want to teach our Constitution. We teach a lot in the Northwest. We've spent a lot of time in the last 3 years teaching in Northern California, Oregon, Washington. And
we need you out here more. We need her out here more. People, we need her out here more.
yeah, no kidding. But we're in the Northwest, Erin. We have the largest groups of young people that come to our attendance than anywhere else in the country. It's not unusual for us to have groups in Northern California, Oregon, or Washington, where we have a single meeting of 300, 400 people, and anywhere from half to 2/3 of them will be 25 years and younger. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah, and I know in the North, I was always told, Erin, your people are in the North, meaning in California. But really, my people are everywhere, and the people in Southern California are fighting hard. They're conservatives, they're liberty-loving libertarians, even some of them. They might be a little bit more liberal-leaning in some ideology, but there are a lot of independents. You name it. There are a lot of people in this state fighting so hard to get back to the basics and to get that overburdening government off.
Yeah, I've taught twice in Bakersfield, California, and in the LA area. So I know there are liberty-minded people
They're very much so. But my people are in the North, and I'm going to tell you, they're fighting hard up there. They don't want anything to do with the rest of California. And I'm saying, I know, right? California is huge. It's a beautiful, dynamic state, and that's what makes it so awesome. We have to unify, but that gets us back to the basics, right, of why we're here and how we're going to do this thing called the United States of America. But here's the deal, is I know that what you're saying is true, and I would ask the listeners and the viewers today to think about the conversations they've had with young people and their families, and to challenge what the media is throwing out there as truth, because so many times I've had young people come to me, even and especially on the campaign, and they'd say, there's a lot of information out there. All I have to do is Google it and really look, and I'll find the right answer. They're not necessarily believing the MSM or the mainstream headline anymore. You can't fool these kids. They're not stupid. They're Americans at their core. And so they're going to look for the truth. But we have to have it out there. So as much as we can help you, we would love to help you, KrisAnne. You have a great vision, and I'm so glad that you're doing your work.
Let me give you I have two websites. So you have the libertyfirstuniversity.com up there, but I also have KrisAnneHall.com. And
Okay.
that's KrisAnnehall.com. And on there, everybody can find our podcasts. They can find videos, articles. That's where we have all of the information that we have out for people free to print out, to use, to however they wanted to do that. We have over 150 articles. We have a YouTube channel with all kinds of videos. We're doing all kinds of training, and it's really
It's
our
KrisAnne
heart's
Hall, right?
desire.
KRIS.
KrisAnneHall.com.
Okay.
KrisAnnehall.com.
There's an E there. That's my bad.
Yep.
That's my bad. But I don't want to. I didn't want to interrupt you there, but I wanted to make sure and get it right and get it up on the screen here for everybody. This is the information age. These kids can get this information themselves. They just need to know where to go to get it. And I believe that they want truth. They don't want to be lied to, and they can tell when somebody's trying to pull the wool over their eyes. We've seen that over and over.
We need to empower them to question what they're learning in the schools, to question their textbooks and question their professors and their teachers, because we have created a Marxist indoctrination center in our public school systems, and in that, you're not allowed to question authority. You're not allowed to question what you're being told. And so what we need to do is raise up generations of free thinkers who will go in the system and just simply turn it upside down. And that's what we hope to do, is get people who are really, really educated. And we teach, like I said, we teach all kinds of groups. We teach high school, middle school, colleges. I've taught the legislators of 10 states.
I'm sorry. Yeah. It's very difficult. I'm laughing. It's almost unbelievable.
Yeah, I taught the legislators of Oregon and Washington state. So I haven't been to Sacramento yet. So we're hoping sometime we might get in there. But
I had a guy on our show. He's running for Congress here in California. He wrote Economics for Dummies. He's looking to go to D.C. They need that book really bad. I'm hoping you could write Constitution for Dummies.
That's really what Liberty
or
First
is there already one out there that you need
all about. Yeah, well, that's what LibertyFirstUniversity.com is all about. It brings things down to the nuts and bolts. Now, we do have books. I have a book called Essential Stories for Junior Patriots, which really is the Constitution for written at such a level that even a high school student can understand that kind of history. And then we have books. One of my most popular books is called Sovereign Duty, which teaches the separation of power between the states and the federal government. It really is the founders' how to get the federal government under control kind of book. So it's not, I can't really take credit for the book. I put it together, but it really is a treatise on the founders' directives on what to do when the federal government gets out of its constitutional boundaries.
And we're in a very particular, we're in a special state of affairs here in California. Yeah. I never thought in my lifetime, quite frankly, where I would be in a position where the state has overstepped its bounds. I always thought it would be the federal government was going to just assume massive amounts of power, not that it hasn't already, because I believe it has way too much power already. But in terms of what I'm seeing here in the state of California, I almost say, feds, we need your help to knock these people down a notch. I mean, it's really scary. You have the separation of powers, but it's just really scary what the states have gone and done. I mean, in terms of California.
Well, you know what your problem is in California?
Worried.
You know what your problem is in California, Erin, is that your legislators haven't followed the California Constitution for decades. And you do not have the right number of representatives. So according to your Constitution, you should have more representatives. That way the people could actually have a voice in California.
There is a representation issue.
Out of control. lots of representation issues. The bottom line is California has grown too big and it's too populated. And so here's the reality. If California followed the Constitution of California and had the proper appropriation of representatives according to the population, you would literally need a building the size of a city to house all of your representatives. But without doing that, the people don't have a voice. And so what happens is that's why the north part of California wants out, because all the power is resting in the, the concentrated urban areas, and nobody else in the state has any voice because you literally have no representation.
Right, and I've had those conversations with the people of the northern part of California, and it is a frustration, it's a struggle, and it's a problem. But more than that, even more than that, I mean, the proper representation is a problem, but these legislators are not being held accountable for their legislating in terms of, we have amendments to to the California Constitution, which I don't believe should be actual amendments to the Constitution. They're literally, they're unconscionable, let alone unconstitutional. I'm fumbled verbally right now thinking about the fact that we literally have people right there in Sacramento that are undermining our entire structure of government here in the state and just overburdening the taxpayers and the citizens of the great state of California, United States citizens in the state of California, to the point where they're allowing this sanctuary state issue. That's a federal issue. I mean, they shouldn't even be doing what they're doing. I mean, they have no right as a state of California to do what they're doing or allow what they're doing, or even municipalities, local governments don't have the right to do anything in relation to the sanctuary state. This is a federal issue. Immigration is a federal issue. What is the federal government doing to uphold that? And our state is currently fighting the federal government on that end and to that end. And it's just, as a person who lives here, it's infuriating.
Well, most of the problem is that we're not engaging in the designed solution. So what we have to recognize and remember first and foremost is that the Constitution is a contract between the states that created the federal government. And when a state becomes a member of the American Union, they sign on and agree to the terms of that contract.
Right.
Now, like any contract dispute, if one of the parties of the contract breaks the term of the contract, it's not really the job of the product of the contract, which would be the federal government, to take control. It's the job of the other parties in that contract. So the real proper remedy to California offering up these benefits of citizenship to people who are not citizens is that the other states ought to come against California. So the first step would be that the governors of the states create resolutions explaining to California from a legal perspective, this is what our agreement says in the Constitution. You're violating that agreement and you have to remedy. Now, if California then refuses the remedy, to remedy within the time constraint of the resolution, then the states would go to step number 2. Step number 2 would be the parties of the contract say to the errant party, if you're not going to remedy, then we're not going to allow you to participate in the arrangements of this contract. You don't get to benefit from the relationship. You don't get to participate in the relationship until you remedy.
The final. Okay, I'll let you go on to that, but I want to remind myself to say something. Go ahead.
Okay. And then the final step. Yeah, the final step in that process, step number 3, is a state who will not remedy based on the resolution, who doesn't respond to the state's sanctioning, will then go ahead and say, hey, you can no longer be a part of this relationship. And so the states would actually expel California from the union. And I know that's something that the people of California don't want, and it's something that the people of the United States don't want either.
Right.
But California has an obligation to the other 49 states to meet the terms of the contract.
Right.
And they can't be in the relationship if they're not willing to be a working part of the relationship.
Right, and I think it is multifaceted. And what I wanted to mention, you did just bring up right there, is I would say the silent majority here, the conservatives in the north, middle, and south of California, not the hoodlums, not the loud voice of the small percentages that are heard and rung through the media, okay? But the real people who want law and order, who want a place to raise their families, strong businesses and all that, and strong economy, all of that. Those people don't want the lawlessness. They don't want the sanctuary state, and they certainly would never agree to, nor would they want to ever have California not be a part of the United States of America. Now, I'll tell you, there are a lot of those people in the leadership, in that little talking voice, in those media head areas, and some powers that be what have you around the country, who would be all too happy to see California go. Just from the standpoint of chaos and the agitation. No, they think
right?
They do. But I'm saying that they would be all too happy in terms of whatever it is that their agenda is and all of these sorts of things. That's a bad deal for Californians, actual Californians. And like just
well, you know
like
what,
the
Erin,
top of the state.
that's why the silent majority has to stop being silent.
They have to be.
Things have to get important, right? Here's what happens. With prosperity, people become pacified. We become lazy in luxury. We become complacent and compliant in our comfort. And the people of California have got to get up off their couches, off their seats. They got to stand up. They got to, this has got to be something that's important.
They've got to vote, first of all. I mean, for people who are principled, get knowledge and vote. And in cases like California, I'm wondering how much that counts, KrisAnne, really, frankly. LA County, I don't know if you've seen, LA County for Dianne Feinstein had over a 70% approval rating in the primary. For Maxine Waters, over a 70% approval rating in the ballot. I mean, this is LA County. Adam Schiff, he's also a massive progressive anti-Trump guy. Anti-liberty guy, really anti-freedom. He got over 70% in California, in LA County. LA County is literally the largest county in the United States in terms of, votes, and it's a problem. I don't believe that those. I'll frankly say it right here with you. I don't believe that those are true numbers.
No, and the education, your battle is actually going to be education. You've got to get in, you've got to educate in these areas. You got to show people how enslaved they actually are and how much these progressive leftist ideologies actually cost them. At LibertyFirstUniversity.com, my husband has a new course called, it's called More Than Victims, America's Black History.
I love that.
It is an awesome, awesome class. We even have a film producer talking to us about turning it into a documentary. But he has a list of name after name after name after name of black patriots, men and women, who were free, who were heroes, philanthropists, business owners, property owners, heroes in the war, all before the Emancipation Proclamation, teaching our Black America that, yes, you were part of the foundation of America. You were part of the creation of our Union. You were part of the creation of our Constitution. And frankly, when you know this history, we could not do it without the Black patriots. And because we've stolen that entire subset of history, we've convinced an entire segment of our population that not only were they not involved in the creation of America, but that their only involvement was slavery. And so now they're able to say, well, we were slaves then, so now we have to be oppressed now, when in reality, the people back then who were enslaved, they overcame that and they became so much more. And that's the power of America, to be so much more. And we've got to get that education into the people's hands so they see that they're not victims.
No, they aren't victims. And as a matter of fact, so many people here in the United States aren't victims at all. They're survivors, they're conquerors, they're victorious, and they come from generations of people who are the same. And we are free, we are equal. And I think that as soon as people let go of how the world perceives them and look at how God sees them, it comes down to faith and family values, that's also a good vision for people as well, because God sees us all as equal. And equality is a big issue. I hear it a lot. Identity politics is tearing apart America right now. And, I really think that education is at the core of what we need. You are correct. So I can't wait to see what they do. I mean, in terms of that movie for your husband, and the content has to get out there though, and the message has to resonate, and willingly, because you can't force feed people. They have to want it, and I think that these liberal media heads are not helping the issue with this situation, like you saw with Kavanaugh. But I'm so glad that you were invited out there to speak and give knowledge and truth and information, because the more people realize that there is solid information out there, there are ways to combat, there are solutions that can be had, the better off we'll be. I mean, really. So thank you for all of your work, KrisAnne. No, we're getting close to the end of the show. We've talked about your radio show. We've talked about your teaching platforms. Where can we know that people can go on KrisAnneHall.com, which is at the bottom of the screen. Where can people see you the most interacting? Is it Twitter? Is it Facebook? Or can they see a mix? I mean, because that's what really people like to do, is they like to interact.
Yeah, so we are probably most active on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Okay, Instagram.
And so, yeah, on those three platforms, and that's where you can the social medias. I call them the unsocial medias, where we can actually talk to where we actually interact with each other. And I check those pages. I post on them every day. We post the radio show there and any articles that we're writing. And I check it. I try to check it every day, but when I'm traveling and teaching, it's hard to get in and actually interact. But we do have those platforms, and we're being censored like everybody else. I posted the video of the Fox and Friends interview, and everybody was trying to share it, but Facebook said that it was a violation of their community standards. So we had to go through this whole craziness.
That's crazy. I mean, what? Because it was content about what he might have done?
Yeah. Well, back then, Kavanaugh wasn't even an issue, right? It wasn't even the Christina Ford issue back then. So it was just, the whole thing is just insane. It really is a technocracy and a corporate censorship. See, we have these quasi-private entities that are built by public dollars, but remain private to hide the fact that they're quashing the people's rights and becoming more powerful than government. When we are becoming more
powerful than government, because I'll tell you right now, it's not just Twitter, it's not just Facebook, it isn't Instagram. I mean, I've had problems with Instagram. Our entire team has. We've also had problems with Gmail, and I know people who've had problems with Outlook in terms of either not sending the mail, losing the mail. All of a sudden, whitelisted mail gets put in trash bins or in junk piles, and this is whitelisted mail. I should be getting this filtered mail, and it's not just me. It's religious groups, conservative groups, volunteers for different campaigns. I'm not just talking about just me and you, but it's email platforms. These are some of the largest organizations in our country, and they're controlling the information, and they're seeing everything we communicate with.
Well, we do have a
That's
particular honor. The Southern Poverty Law Center has had me on their list of anti-government extremist hate groups now for 4 years.
Yes,
And
you have been.
Well, it's a unique honor because
Do you have a badge?
996 groups. I know I should, but they have 996 groups on their list and me. I'm the only individual on the list that is named as an individual without a group, as an anti-government extremist hate group, because I teach the Constitution, right? Well, this year, Erin, Southern Poverty Law Center has an internal policy that they don't identify individuals. Well, they threw their policy out to target me. So this year, they decided they were going to get into compliance with their policy. They literally created and made up a group and put my name on it so that they could have me associated with a group so that they wouldn't be violating their policy of identifying an individual. And so these are the things that we have to come up against.
That is criminal. That is absolutely 100% criminal. Talk about a targeted hate group. I mean, it's interesting to me that they categorize you as a hate group or a hate. I mean, they put you in the same bucket they should be in.
And Antifa is not on their list. Antifa, they say, doesn't advocate for hate.
What about
so
Black
they're not
Lives
on the hate
Matter?
group. I don't know if they're on there or not, but Antifa's not on there, but I am. So I can't actually wrap my brain around it.
You don't need a badge. Now that I know they created their own little policy for you, you don't need a badge. You need a crown.
I know, right?
Well, thank you so much for coming on the Erin Cruz Show, KrisAnne. You are an amazing woman. You're fighting the good fight. You're on the front lines every single day, teaching and instructing our youth and the people. We want to have you back on in maybe in about a month after the elections are over and get an update and provide more people more information. And, this is just an intro into you and an introduction of the people from the Erin Cruz Show to you. And we're so honored to have you on the show. Thank you again.
Oh, I'm so glad you invited me, and we'll come back anytime.
Wonderful. God bless.
Thank you.
To hear more and to learn more on how you can make an impact or about the Erin Cruz Show, visit us online at erincruz.com. That's ERINCRUZ.com.